Okay, 1, 2, 3. Hello, everybody. This is RebelNews episode number 2, and we are going to talk about XRebel today. And hello, my name is Anton. I have Simon with me today here.
Hello.
And we have a guest, our own Arnel Pällo.
Hello.
Hello. Arnel is going to show us some features in XRebel that are new and exciting. And before we go to that, XRebel, we did cover XRebel in the previous episodes, right?
Yeah,
in the first one, in the introductory one, but probably still makes sense to repeat a little bit, like for a couple of minutes. Maybe I should share the screen with the website and show what it actually is. Where? Hangouts. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. Share. And here it is. We have a product that is called XRebel, and that is a performance tool for Java developers, and they can use it to introspect into the application and see where the bottlenecks are, whether the database calls are inefficient, or there are too many of them, or the application code is inefficient. It's almost like a profiler, but not quite. Yeah, it injects a toolbar, which is actually an HTML toolbar, into the web applications UI, where it notifies if something goes wrong, if certain parameters or metrics go above the threshold. Let's say you have configured 20 for the maximum numbers of database calls, and there's certainly 30 calls on the database during the request, then the toolbar will actually notify you and say that there's something wrong, and you will explore what's wrong and probably fix it as well. And just recently, XRebel released the support for single-page applications, and there is okay, we wanted to know why we did release this kind of support, and why is it interesting, and what kind of problems it solves. So we should ask Arnel probably what it means and why we are doing it. Arnel.
We talk to customers a lot when we are developing XRebel and go to conferences. And one question people kept asking us is support for applications where front-end and back-end are served by different servers. And that question came up more and more because single-page apps is relatively new architecture, and it's gaining more ground every year. And so we set out to implement that so that we can cover our friends in modern architectures. And what I mean by this single-page app, I'm going to take this little to-do MVC application. Can you see my screen correctly?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. I copy-pasted it from to-do MVC, which is a nice repository of all the front-end frameworks. So for this one, I chose React and React.js. So with a normal application, you would have to write templating logic all into Java code. But in this case, it's just plain HTML and TypeScript. In TypeScript, you can return HTML and components directly in your code. And you can delegate this responsibility to front-end people who are absolutely superb at writing HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, and they don't have to deal with Java, and they don't have, and also Java developers don't have to worry about templating. So I just have static HTML and JavaScript here. And the backend data is loaded from a different server. In this case, it's Tommy returning only JSON. I also have that open in my application, which is to do backend. And the great part for backend developers is that they don't have to deal with any JavaScript. They can do a simple REST service. In this application, I have only 2 classes. One of them is a simple Pojo, a model class, and allow is the service. Just has to return the data in a JSON format, and you don't even have to convert to JSON manually. The trouble with that approach and XRebel is that even though I have this to-do service run is a XRebel, with XRebel, the front end is not using Java, and therefore no XRebel toolbar. This is because XRebel normally injects via Java server. So to get over that, historically I could go to the standalone UI where I could actually see the data. So when I reload the page here, I see the data being here, to-do service, and the database query. But switching between the tabs is not exactly great. And therefore, we added XRebel for single-page apps. All you need to do to enable that is copy-paste a snippet of code to your HTML file. It's the same HTML we usually inject to the responses if you do the Java-only approach. Copy-paste that to the file. I already did that, so I'm just going to comment it in. I need to provide the correct URL to the backend, though. Save the file. Oops. And when I reload the page now, I have the XRebel here. And so without having to switch to other tabs or anything, opening the calls view, I can immediately see all the queries I'm making. And what's even cooler is that if you have single-page apps and you also like to do microservices, which is your functionality spread across different standalone applications. In my case, I have this to-do backend, which was serving the JSON to the front end, but it actually goes further and reads data from yet another little microservice, to-do's repository, which is here. And that actually is going to the database to read data. I ran all of those Java services with XRebel enabled. This repository is actually Spring boot application, and it consists of only 4 files. 5 files if you count the properties file where I just specify the property. And backend is a Tommy app with 2 files. So with XRebel, I could combine microservices with different technologies. As long as they speak Java and run with XRebel, you get all the tracing information combined into one tree. So front-end called to the service called to do repository. We indicate that it's a remote call, and the repository did the database queries.
Nice. So we have like full introspection from the front end to the database.
Yeah,
right?
The whole chain.
Nice, nice. And I can see that the UI that you're showing is actually updated. So you're running which version of XRebel? Is it 3.3?
Yes, the latest we released.
Yeah, so we released it last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the standalone UI that you had in front for a moment was actually the new one. So it was reworked in 3.3. It looks awesome.
Yeah, I saw that. I wasn't sure how when that was actually put in, but that's a recent addition, is it? So that's a much nicer toolbar from what we had before.
Yeah, and it has Duke.
Yeah, we put a lot of love into the Duke animations.
Doesn't Duke look weird with eyes?
Yeah, actually, if you like Star Trek, you can actually validate this is a correct start date for 2017, 5th of April, as we're currently recording it. So 2 years from now, you will have a different number there. So it's a correct start date.
Perfect.
So this Ninja UI, I guess, or what would you call it now? Dashboard UI?
It's a standalone.
We call it standalone UI.
So this, I guess, the difference between what users of XRebel would normally see is what they would normally have to do to get this is from the usual backend developer's point of view. They literally just need to enable it, and the toolbar will pop up, or this will be available. So from the front end, you need to do, it's more of a manual step, I guess, because you actually need to add it to your HTML. So that's probably the biggest config step that we've had we've introduced, I guess. But you, of course, only need to do it for a standalone app, right?
Well, it looks more like a convenience, so that you don't have to, do this /XRebel and switch between the tabs and still have the same application UI in front of you, and without navigating away, you can get the notifications from the toolbar.
Exactly, it creates this seamless experience.
One other thing, Arnel, in the video which we did, I know we grabbed that snippet, that HTML snippet. We grabbed it from the standalone page. Is that still possible, or do we need to users have to go to the website all the time?
Currently, in the latest version, you do have to go to the website, unfortunately. And when I click how to set this up, you also have to mind the URL here.
Okay. Is that something we might consider looking into?
Yes, I hope to. We can get the snippet back in the next release, because then you could also, then you would only have to copy paste the snippet, because the snippet in the standalone UI already knew the hostname and port, so that you wouldn't have to modify a single thing.
Cool.
Yeah, that would be nice.
And so, how would front end developers use this, and how would full stack developers use this? Because both can make good use of this, right?
Yeah, correct. For front end, for full stack developers, I guess it's just they have the full picture when they are developing. As mentioned, you don't have to switch to the standalone UI or switch tabs. You can get all the correct information going on there without searching for it. If I try clicking on updating data here, I can see that the data wasn't updated for some reason. So then I can immediately check out what's going on there. Actually, in the logs view, I can see that actually the data reached the backend, but for some reason it didn't generate database queries. So it's a nice hint that then you can then go to the to-do backend application. And indeed, in the save to-dos, I was lazy. I did it the startup way, just hard-coded saving to-dos without actually writing into the database. It's a nice way to find out any problems you have in your applications. For front-end developers, the chain is a bit more profound. Front-end devs don't write backend code, but again, when you're writing your application, you're worried about UX and experience the users are having. And for some reason, when something doesn't work, you want to figure out what's going on. Why doesn't it save? Is it my code which is problematic, or is it in the backend? Or if you have any performance problems, then you can immediately communicate this to the backend people that, hey, I'm doing lots of save queries. Please make sure that these queries run super fast, because that's the hot method. Backend developer might not be aware of the fact. He's developing the JSON REST interface, which just reads and parses JSON. He's not aware that some method can take more time, but for others, latency is key. So that way, you can actually get much better communication between front-end and back-end people.
Okay. For this end-to-end feature that we have in XRebel, so for this call from backend application to the repository that we had, it's just right in front of you, right?
Yes.
What are the attributes that we are also displaying in those requests? I see there is an arrow. You can expand it, and okay, we can see the headers, right, and we can see the response body.
Yes, it's a JSON which makes up the response.
Yeah, so it's also like a nice way to debug your application. You don't have to go and set the breakpoint. You can immediately see what was actually moving between the application, what kind of attributes in the headers, and what was the response.
And if you're making a post request, then you can also see the request bodies here.
Cool stuff. All right. I think we have covered right now pretty much everything. And
yeah, another new feature we added a bit before single-page application is logs.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So when you are a good developer, you usually add a lot of logging statements to your application, but searching the log file for the correct location can be tricky and troublesome. And then if you want to log some objects or collections, you have to figure out how to go about serializing them. XRebel's log view, we group all the logging statements by the requests where they were made in. So in my case, saving to-dos, it's only, I can find it easily. And when you're logging objects, you can expand and browse them like an object graph, which can be much more awesome compared to serializing it or parsing some JSON there. And in the near future, we're also adding logging framework support. So soon, if you're using SLF4J, you can get the same view. You can get the same data out of the logs view.
So you don't have to explicitly put any kind of system out println statements in your code, right?
Yeah, currently we only support system out println or system error println. Yeah, it's exactly the same place here. But yeah, soon, if you use logging frameworks, you can keep using logging frameworks and you can see the data.
Nice, nice. All right. Thank you, Arnel, for this nice demo and for this review of XRebel, XRebel's new features. And I think we can wrap it up here. And users, you should try it. Yes. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.